Welcome back to another little quick garden tour. It's beginning of May now. It's been a couple of weeks since the last video. I've actually been away for the last week on holiday, and I've come back and everything has shot up quite a bit now. All the tulips are starting to come out. We've even got some Aquilegias starting to come out. The Rheum palmatum has shot up. There's some Dracunculus vulgaris, peonies. This one's not doing anywhere near as well as this one, but that normally seems to be the case. I think it just doesn't get quite as much light with the bamboo. I've come across a problem with the bamboo, speaking of, where if I can get down close, you'll see my liner has been forced down by the rhizome scrabbling over the top and soil accumulating over the top of it. So I've now got the fun task of cutting back and digging this out to expose the liner, because obviously this close to the pond I can't risk it puncturing it. So that's a job for after work this week. One of the Musa Basjoo clumps is starting to show some signs here, and there's a few little nodules around the stump that hopefully are going to give us some signs of life soon. I mean, we're beginning of May and we've not got, active growth really. This year we're quite a way behind, but despite that the weeds seem to be growing strongly. The other big change is, I think since last video, I have taken this back, thinned it out and dug out a huge chunk. This was right up to the metal edging, so it's about a foot to 18 inches taken out, and that's been put over the back. Not that big clump, but just the other side, if you can see it back there. I know there's a lot of talk about the black bamboos flowering. I'm still not seeing any sign of it here yet, so I'm not going to go out and buy a new clump and then risk it dying in the next 18 months. Talking of which, I've also thinned out this Chimerops, so you can now see it's getting a good old trunk. It's probably 2.5, maybe even, probably 2.5, maybe not quite 3 foot yet, but that's looking a bit better, and once it's got new shoots it will fill out again. All the giant daylilies have started to really sprout through. No sign of red lily beetle actually this year. Even my fritillaries haven't been hit. My crowned imperials. Grasses. Oh, actually on this bed, I will show you. You can see just there, we've got the first few stems of my canna. That's Canna Tanny. It's basically my earliest canna that comes through. Ginormous variety with some really interesting flowers, which I will show you later on in the year. But my other clumps, if I come down, no signs of life yet. And oh, is that just there? If I can get it to focus on it rather than my hand. First shoots, and that is Intrigue. And I've also got Eric Newbert down here somewhere. The rhizomes are firm, even right at the very surface, so they should be good. This is all coming along nicely. I lifted out my Santidicia White Giant because it was basically cut back by the frost when it got hit, even though it was under the water surface. Cleaned out all the sludge, and I'm hoping to see some new growth on that in the next few weeks. Behind there you can see the Thalia delbata, also not showing any signs of life, with a nice big fat toad on top of it. Going back to this bed, I'm basically convinced that the Acacia delbata has completely died. There's no signs of it. It's quite loose in the ground, so we will probably end up having to lift that, which is a shame, but I'm going to replace it with something a bit more hardier, which I've already got. The Choicea tenata I've had to cut back because, again, that got probably about 6 to 12 inches off of it from the cold. And I've just noticed, although I don't have any red lily beetle, something has been munching on these leaves, so I've probably got a little bit of a slug or snail problem. You can see that one's getting quite badly hit. Oh yeah, I've got this big log pile here from doing the some other work, so I need to probably sort this all out. But my hostas haven't been touched this year. Hibiscus is starting to come out into bud. A few more bits and pieces. Some more canna that's actually coming through. This is one that I've got over there. I think it's just Eric Nubert again. But I've got a couple of clumps. You can see we're still getting problems with the rabbits and the weeds. I weeded this bed about a month ago. You would never know it was weeded. And then I've got some in here where the rabbits were digging it up. I've just protected some Achilles terracotta. So I've got the canna with some nice dark foliage, bright red flowers, and then the soft feathery green of the Achillea, and then the terracotta orange of the flowers. Go over the bridge. Feels like it's just about to start to rain. I figured out where my leak from my pond is, and it's just in the centre there. You can see some pond liners showing. The water level and the splash actually goes over that, so I need to redo this top pond, and I think I'm actually just going to have it as a like a low level bog pit really, and then have the waterfall kind of just going into the main pool. So here you can see the black bamboo that I lifted, and that's not even all of it. I just covered it with some of the old leaves. I'm hopefully going to use this to screen off this section a bit more, create a bit more shelter back here. My gunnera is really, I know it shouldn't really be in a pot, but it was so tiny last year with the dry weather that I stuck it in, and I mean, that's my hand. So you can see just how small these leaves are. It's barely putting on any growth. It's a little bit squidgy in places, so I don't think it's got a great root, so I may very well just replace it with a new one. Maybe try and get a genuine Menacata rather than a Tinctoria. Hostas coming through. A couple more in a pot. Thinned out some of my ferns of some dead leaves. That was over here. That was my mountain pepper. That was just going to be overgrown by the bamboo, so I was just taking it out. Starting to get some new growth coming through. The basjoo up the back here, still not really showing much in the way of new growth off the stems. This one is about the only one that's got, you know, new growth coming. I can feel this is solid. I probably need to cut it down here, you know, kind of another halfway again, and just accept that I'm going to be losing most of the height. You know, it's got a big root. It will grow back this year to a good size. You can see the fritillaries are all finished, but very little damage on the leaves in there this year. Last year was an absolute nightmare with the red lily beetle. Fatsia is starting to recover from the frost. Got all the new shoots in here, and I think I saw, yeah, a few new bits down the bottom, so we'll see how that all goes. Another hosta down here come through nicely in really good condition. Even the figs are starting to come through. We've got little figs. I mean, they won't be ones that will ripen this year. They won't grow quickly enough unless we have a really good hot winter, with a really hot summer. Miscanthus giganteus starting to poke through. I think it'll be time now to clear all of the old debris. We leave it on there because we get the amphibians hibernating in there. Bamboo is doing fine. I was just going to show you. Oh, just starting to get some buds on the Rosa. And down here we have a giant hosta, which is just about there. It's a lot later, but I mean, if I come back to the back, you'll see how much darker it is back here. And it's surrounded on probably 90% of the size, so very little light. Come back, started thinning out the phormium of all the dead leaves, and I've just started to prop the leaves up over this fig. My idea was that this was going to be the main centerpiece as you walk in through the gate, and you would see a massive phormium in there, but I've never really been happy with it. It's always been more floppy over than, you know, really upright. And then I decided to get some height by sticking the fig in, and I think I've just made things more problematic. So that will eventually come out, and I think it's going to go in the front garden when I get around to doing the front garden. For the meantime, we've got a garden show at the end of the month. I'm going to get some nice bits of metal stakes just to prop the leaves up around it, so that you can see everything underneath, because we've got a few bulbs and bits and pieces under here that, you know, would be nice to see for this year. Now, while the basdew may not be shooting very readily, this is the leftovers of my Sicumensis, and this is my new growth. You know, as far, if not maybe slightly further advanced than basdew, and I'm putting that down purely to the protection the phormium and the volcano have given. Volcano, I've given it a thin out as well yesterday, so I can actually see in there now. You'll see just how bad a job I did when I planted it. I couldn't even get it in the ground fully, so the top couple of inches of root were literally out of the ground, but it's doing well. I've started to take some of my slightly more tender plants out, agaves and aloes and some more cannas, just somewhere where I can cover them if I need to quickly. I've lost, by the looks of it, one red phormium. These other ones don't look 100%, but they are solid. Speaking of which, even this is solid, so I'm just going to see if it will reshoot. If not, then it'll go in the bin. I have some freebies from a client. Another rheum that I've got to get in the ground at some point soon. Some of the remains of the bamboo where I'm trying to dig it all out. I finally got the rhododendron lineifolium out of the greenhouse, just to give it a little bit of fresh air and see where I can go with it. I've got a couple over here, a couple of my Trachycarpus seedlings from about 4 years ago that I've literally neglected in these pots. They're the pots I sowed them in. They've had multiple years with literally no water in the greenhouse. They've somehow survived. I'm going to give them a little bit more TLC and see if I can grow them this year. I'm not going to be spending money on the B&M ones, just because there's a good chance that I will not be at this house for more than another couple of years, and I don't want to spend several £100s on it. I potted up some blueberries into some nicer tubs. They were a bit of a bargain, half price at my local garden centre. And there's the other black bamboo, so just a small clump. And I finally potted on the Fatsia polycarpa that's been languishing in a pot for the last 18 months. My wife and I had a good potting on session, and then today we've just done a load of veg seedlings. You see, even this ginger, no shoots yet. This has been in the greenhouse all winter, but it's absolutely fine. Pots are a bit dry, but again good. Not the Dicksonia, the other tree fern, I can never remember their cultivar names, but that is actually alive. Started watering it, and it's got the new crosiers coming through. Got some potatoes that have gifted themselves to us, and then today's work has been potting on, basically using up old seeds wherever I can. Tidied up the cycad, got rid of the old leaves, and just pulled it out so I can start getting some fresh air, and we'll see whether or not we get any more frost. It's just starting to rain, so I'm going to finish up quickly. The perennial beds are looking pretty good. Just starting to get some buds on the Catapula purpurea. The prunus over there is in leaf nicely. Peonies are coming through, bluebells are out in flower. Some dark coloured elders. The acers are all doing good. Everything down here is doing good. I've started to play with this line. I think I'm happy with this, except obviously that little bit in there. Just can't, I've got to take some of it apart to kind of straighten it out a bit almost. And give myself a huge bed to fill, which I think is probably still just going to be a Basjoo forest, I think, because I can just propagate a load. Down here, everything that was planted a couple of weeks ago is doing really well. The weeds haven't taken over just yet. And then some more tulips. So it's now starting to spit, so I think I'm going to leave it at that. Have a little look at this tulip and then we'll call it a day on this video, and I will probably be back in about another week to 10 days. We'll see how quickly everything grows, so I will see you then.